Life sometimes come at you fast. Tragedies make your life unravel. You feel like you wanna give up and stay knocked down. Even when your heart is shattered, you still got a life to live. You still got a life to live, so don't give up. We are beautiful miracles. We are beautiful miracles. We are beautiful miracles, so don't give up.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me again on my podcast, Beautiful Tragedy. My name is Carrie Schmidt, and I'm joined today with my husband, Mike, and my brother, Kevin. And if you like what you're hearing, if you would comment, like, subscribe, and share my podcast, I would greatly appreciate it. And today is going to be probably a pretty deep and difficult conversation, but I asked my brother if he would be willing to interview both Mike and I so we can share our experience of losing Jackson. I just feel like sometimes that a father's grief can be overlooked and people don't really talk about how hard it can be on a marriage. And so I asked my brother if he would join us and interview us. So
yeah, I'm super happy to be here first off. So thank you, sister, for including me. I'm super proud of you for doing this podcast and so glad to be able to join in it too.
Thank you.
So cool. Yeah. I guess we can just like kick into it, right? And start doing this thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So I think, Carrie, just if you could get us started a little bit with, just sharing a bit of what it's been like since Jackson's death for you, just as an individual as a part of in the marriage, right?
Yes. Losing a child is every parent's worst nightmare. And it's something that people I don't even think can entertain that would ever happen. And, your problems don't become automatically easier or better when you've lost a child. I think one of the hardest parts is that life still continues to go on, even though my world was shattered. And so, continuing to maintain a household and parent a child and still have a marriage and, have some sort of a semblance of a relationship when both of our hearts are broken individually. My heart is broken for Mike. That was his first son, and there's just so many layers and levels and things that most of the time I can't think much past what the next day is going to be, let alone years down the road and the things that unfortunately we will not get to share and experience with Jackson. And so I would say it has affected me on absolutely every level. I am not the same. I never could be the same. The child who made me a mother is no longer here. And, watching my husband be so sad and devastated is heartbreaking because there is absolutely nothing I can do to make it better.
Yeah. And I remember even you saying, that life still goes on. You still have to run a household. You still have to run a business that you guys have started as well. I mean, I remember, the first month or two afterwards, Carrie, you talked about this on other episodes that you're like, I don't even know how the dishes got done. I don't know how food showed up. You had such great outpouring of support, but it's a thing that you wouldn't think about normally that things have to you still have to feed yourself. You still have to put gas in the car, and those are all things that you guys have somehow managed to still do,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mike, what about you? I mean, I know, Mike, just for, if I slip into this on accident, I call Mike Bobo, and this is my sister or sisterhood. So if I slip into that, now you know who the cast of characters are. I'm also Bobo. That's basically shorthand for brother, which I think actually came from, was that from Jackson?
Was from Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson called Jackson. Ivan Bobo. Yep.
That's right. So that's the term Bobo, and then we all started using it because it's so cute and endearing.
Yes.
So my Bobo, we've actually talked, I think, definitely a lot more since Jackson died. And we share, usually weekly Marco Polo videos and share a lot of music likes and things like that. And Mike has been, kind enough to really let me in on what's going on with him through those videos. We'll send like 20-minute like video clips to each other about like every single thing going on. I'm like, yeah, and I built this fence I'm super proud of. And he's like, great job, Kevin, And so I've been super happy to be getting closer to you. Obviously not the circumstance that I would want that in, but I've watched it change you as well, of course. And I'm curious just to hear it from you, your thoughts and how are you different than you were 2 years ago and change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of it is, not good. I mean, I was a lot more secure of a person, before Jackson died. I have my anxiety level is just skyrocket. I worry about losing Ivan also and Grace. And I mean, it's just, that part is really hard for me to, get back into life with dealing with, because it's new to me. I mean, I've had anxiety my whole life, but nothing like this. And, and just the anger. I mean, I'm mad. I feel, completely robbed of somebody that I loved. I mean, he still is such a special person in life, in our family, that, I mean, talk about just knocking you out. Like when you lose somebody that you love that much and changes your life that much, it's hard, especially at such a sweet, innocent young age. It's hard to find anything. It's hard to find anything that's, even remotely upsetting or bad about his life. He was just such a beautiful, happy, sweet, giving, loving boy. So it just kills us every time we think of it.
Yeah, I'm always so surprised at how through the changes that I've seen you go through since then. That obviously you have your harder days and your better days, but I feel like you still keep going. I still hear you like finding things that are joyful. You tell me about the hikes you go on and stuff and neat things you find on that. Like, I know it's obviously nothing will ever replace Jackson, but it seems to me that you've gone on a bit of maybe a spiritual journey even since then. I don't know. Do you think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I feel like I almost have to keep going and to have some sort of peace or hope in this, in this world. It's just tough. So yeah, without moving forward in some direction and doing something to help with my, just issues that I have. I mean, I feel like I'm spinning out of control sometimes. So I need to meditate. I need to pray and walk and hike. And I mean, that's all just, I need a lot of solitude, it seems like, and it just all helps me. I talk to Jackson all the time when I'm hiking. So that's been a really important part of my journey right now.
Well, yeah. I also know that, Mike and I both as individuals really enjoyed music, and we enjoyed that together. And I know that, his music, has really been something that has helped him through just some tough times. You just feel that connection on a different level when it comes to music, and it touches you in a different way. And so I've seen how, he's really reached for music, as a coping tool, if you will.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I added to our thing to talk about today. So I'm glad I already jumped to that, because Mike is a musician. I'm a musician as well. And so we like super connect on sharing bands. We're always like saying, have you checked out this? Have you checked out that? And I know that for a while there for you guys, music was really painful because of the connection that you had with Jackson, because you guys would rock out. We would all rock out with Jackson to certain songs. And I know for a while there that you guys just didn't want any music at all. understandably. And it seems like over time that has come back. And I'm super glad, because I know it's a big joy in both of your lives. And especially with Mike, he and I connect on that a lot. And so you already kind of said a little bit, Mike, about, on your hikes, because I think of like hiking and music as things that you've kind of started doing a lot more. I was kind of curious, you said from hiking that you'll be talking to Jackson or have that time to kind of process and have your alone time. I was curious if there's an equivalent, or like with music, is there something about music that brings out those feelings or helps you process?
Oh, definitely. I find myself just completely blaring my, in my truck, got my windows up, and I'm just rocking out. And I mean, I'll scream, I'll sing, I'll dance, I'll do whatever I can to try to
just let go, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I know also that, one of the things that we're all aware of in the Western culture is that, like, it's not super cool for dudes to cry. It's not really accepted to have feelings, those are for women only, but we know that's not the truth, right? We know that there are feelings, and it's also tough, I'm sure, for you as kind of the breadwinner of the family and running your own business. How have you managed? I mean, what do you do to kind of manage that, both of like needing to express your feelings, but also needing to move forward, needing to work, needing to do those things?
It's hard. I went back to work way too soon because I've always just had this strong desire to provide, and I've always been a hard worker and enjoy working. But I made the mistake of going back too soon because that's what I do. I work. And so it was devastating. I mean, it eventually led to having to change my job because I just couldn't take it anymore. I was, almost out of control a little bit, to where I would, just break down at any minute throughout the day, several times a day, and have to regain myself, my composure before I talk to a customer. And, so it was tough. Now it's not, I mean, it's a little easier maybe, but it's still, because it's our own business, but it's still hard. I mean, I there's some mornings I don't want to get up out of bed. I mean, that's just pure honest right there. And, there's some days where I just think about, Jackson a lot more, and, it's much more, I just feel the loss more, and it just makes for a hard day to, like, if you're trying to finish jobs and, do your, so I'm trying to, like, be more healthy and, like, give myself some leeway, because I could also be hard on myself. So I like to try to give myself a little break and say, hey, you need to go on a hike today. You need to wind down a little bit before you get home. And, And I love playing with Ivan. Ivan is truly, like, just the joy of playing with him, and how he plays with, how he's competitive with games, and it just helps, because I just know Jackson would be there right with him, and so it gives me, like, this importance and this feeling that I really feel proud about.
Well, you become his playmate. I mean, you're like his brother in some ways, like, especially because over half of the time there's been a pandemic, and so Ivan, the spotlight has been shown on the fact that he has had no kids to play with, and so
his older brother, his playmate, was removed. He doesn't have them anymore,
and so it's the most beautiful thing for me to see Mike. Just they play. And they bicker a little bit, but they play, and, like, Ivan just like loves playing with his dad and wrestling with him. And, there was a time not that long ago that Mike wasn't able to do that because the stress of losing Jackson and the business and just everything else caused so much stress that it caused major health problems for Mike. And, we can talk a little bit about that. I think most of the people that we know about Mike's health problems. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. Like to me, this how this came about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I truly believe that it is a result of losing my son. I was born with a VSD, which is a small minor hole in my heart that never seemed to be a really big deal. They never talked about surgery as far as maybe when I was younger, but as I got older, I don't remember any talk of surgery, just maybe possibly in the future. And then after Jackson passed, I can truly say I had nothing really to live for. Or I did have things to live for, obviously, but in my mind, I felt like I just was over. I felt like I couldn't go on any further. And, I pretty much gave up and, just wasn't eating very well. I was working all the time. I just, was isolating and it led to me getting a blood infection. And during this time, I just kept getting worse and worse. And really the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on.
Scary, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it was scary, but it also was like, it's hard to explain, but it's also like, well, I have a son now that is not here with us anymore. So whatever his eternity is, I can join him. It's hard to explain that you are pulled in two directions where you want to be here and you need to be here for your wife and kids, but also have another kid that you want to be with terribly.
Yeah.
And so
yeah,
to have that struggle within and then to get sick like I did, something happened and something changed where I had no fear. I went through this with there was no fear. I really had it was like I was either going to walk out of the surgery or, get better, or I was going to wake up. I just had this weird sensation where it was just like, hey, this is going to happen, whatever
just
it is.
accepting whatever it is. I mean, the craziest thing to me too is that for a while there was like you had back pain and it was specifically like your rib behind your heart. It was like, and then it ended up being that you had the valve in your heart needed replacing. I mean, it's a broken heart. Like it's a broken heart that
definitely is. Yeah.
Well,
came about,
And not only that, but when Jackson was in the hospital, he had the tumor in his leg and he had a flap on his mitral valve. And that, is what caused the strokes. And then when the doctor came into the room and told us that Mike had vegetations on his aortic valve, I just thought, you can't make that up. You cannot make that up. I mean, he basically had a similar ailment that, that Jackson had. And it was just like, I will never for the rest of my life forget when that doctor came in and said that he had to have open heart surgery. And I think it was almost unspoken with all the doctors because they all knew our story. It was like they knew it was from a broken heart too,
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so wild. That's so wild.
Yes.
And yet you came through it. I remember you saying, Mike, you're like, yeah, I'm either, I'm going to die or I'm going to come back from this stronger than ever. And it would seem that the latter is what has happened. Cause I like seeing Mike from where he was like skinny, wasting away, like no red in his cheeks,
right.
Almost like delirious from no energy, from no food. And then like now coming back and like looking strong, actually going back to work, like that's an amazing feat, really, that you came back, man.
And I think it's also a subject that, some people might not feel very comfortable talking about. In our support group, we've had conversations about if people wanted to die also after their child died. And, that doesn't mean that Mike is going to take his life. And obviously I'm sure sometimes people do because the heartbreak is that severe, but it's like the pain that losing your child causes is painful enough that you would want to die. And I don't think people, sometimes people don't feel comfortable saying that. And so I I appreciate that you were honest and just shared the truth. I mean, this is hard. It's hard for us to talk about the pain that we live with every day, and it's a pain that cannot be fixed. And that's been, you know, a challenge because we know that our friends and our family, you know, the ones that are here, that they have to realize that this is who we are now. We are broken people. We will never be the same. We will not get over this. We will not get past this. We're just learning how to carry it. And sometimes it's ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know for my part, living, you know, I don't live in St. Louis. For those listening, I live in New Orleans, and I try to get back there as often as possible, but, you know, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And a lot of that time spent now is like Carrie said, like she's mentioned how many times that people just don't know what to do with your pain. Yeah. Like they don't know what to do with you guys telling them that you're having a hard time, that you don't feel like you want to live, whatever thing. And a lot of my time now spent with you guys, and this is fine. This is the way it is I'm like, I just have to be able to be there. I want so badly to be able to make it better, like we all want to do. Right. But what actually all you can do is just be there and just listen and just hug and be patient
and cry with us. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, this, I know this has hurt you too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's been hard to watch these 2 people that I love. We have a small family. You're my only sister.
Mm-hmm.
This is my only Bobo. I don't say brother-in-law because like I don't care about you know, the legal status of my brother. He's my brother. You know, that, you know, you're some of the closest people in my life. And like I've seen you guys change. And it obviously it makes me sad to be like, well, my sister is a different sister now. Right. I would never wish this upon her. I mean, I'm amazed with what she's been able to do since then. With just being so active with support groups and things and raising money. But at the same time, I still would rather you guys just have your son and her son, you know, the son who loved their uncle, like Uncle Kev, you know. It's been hard for me to feel like I've been being a good uncle. Like I have a hard time wanting to, it's not that I don't want to be Ivan's uncle, but there's so much pain there that I'm like, I'll admit, like I've been a little bit like, I don't even know what to do with this. Yeah. I don't know what to do with this. I did not go back there to bury my nephew. That's what I said when I got on the plane, when he was in the hospital. I said, I'm not going to bury my nephew. That's not what I'm doing.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. And I'm still in shock even when I say it now, you know, but it's been hard for me to know what to do at a distance, how to grieve. I've been trying to take my cues from you, Carrie, you know, just listen and say, when you say things that are hard, that, you know, people don't want to just listen and sit with it. Well, then that's what I'm going to try to do.
Right.
You know, but it's hard. Tough. It's like, you know, people don't know what to do with it. I don't know. What's the manual for this?
I wish there was one.
You know?
Yeah. Yep.
But at the same time, like my friends here, my friends everywhere who know about this story, they ask me like, how's your sister doing? How's your brother-in-law doing? How are you guys doing? And I'm like, how do I even answer that question? Yeah. Okay. I mean, like, if you ask me, I would say, okay to very good considering. You know, right. If I say very good, it sounds like everything's hunky dory. Right. Well, I think they're doing great that they didn't like crawl inside a bottle and never be seen from again. You know, that's also pretty good. Yeah. You know,
true. And I certainly don't judge anybody who does that because it's that painful that you would want to do anything you could to not have that pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know a bit of how it's, you know, changed our relationships between me and you, Carrie, and me and you, Mike. But like, I'd be curious to hear for you guys, how has your relationship changed? Mike, I mean, like what is different now between you guys than it was before Jackson's death?
Well, like Carrie said earlier, obviously all our problems are, you know, every marriage has problems. That hasn't gone away. But what has happened and changed is I feel we both realize how much suffering we're doing and both like taking a part of that I feel are a little more, you know, sensitive to each other's needs and a little, I mean, we still have our issues, but, you know, it seems like we try to, you know, be more patient with each other, I guess.
I've definitely seen that. I've seen that too. Cause I know that like you like your hikes and you like to have your alone time.
Yeah.
And sometimes Carrie's like, we got to get some stuff done. We got to do the business. We got to do whatever. But then I've also seen Carrie, you've been really graceful about being like, but that's what he needs. And like, he's doing something, right? It's not like you're just sitting stewing. You know, I'm sure you do some of that too, but
Right.
if you're out there hiking and kayaking and doing things that are good for your mind and your spirit, I've seen you be really giving a lot of space to him. And I think that makes me really happy to see that.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough. It's tough. It's very, very, very terrible to watch your spouse just be shattered, and you are too, but you can't fix it. I can't. And most of the time when I know that he's really down, I don't say much, which maybe isn't the most helpful thing. But if I go in and try to give a solution, that doesn't help either. So one of the things our therapist shared with us, and, this is a work in progress. We will never claim to be figuring this out or anything like that, but we are always working on it. One of the things that Glenn tells us to ask each other is just say, what do you need? What do you need? That's a simple way, because you might say, I don't know what I need, but like if you realize that, there's something that they might need, maybe it's like, I just need like 20 minutes to myself. Let me have 20 minutes, because for me, my brain is on overload so much, like just with all the things I'm doing and with the house and the business and Ivan and everything, that it's like by the end of the day, I'm very, very overstimulated by loud noises. And it's just, I think my body is like, okay, that's enough for the day. And so sometimes like I just need some time where I can just not be overstimulated. And, I feel like we're pretty good about understanding that. A lot of times we sort of take turns, not on purpose, but it's like most of the time we're not both down at the same time, which is a blessing. But something
happens.
It does. Oh, and it did just recently. Halloween was something that I didn't feel real prepared for it taking me down. But it was the third Halloween without Jackson. And Halloween is a child-focused holiday.
You're seeing all the kids dressed up. And
especially Jackson.
He loved Halloween. And we choose not to trick-or-treat in our neighborhood only because it's very hard for us to see his classmates, And now Ivan's at the same school as him. So, it's like we don't want to take that away from Ivan, but at the same time, there are some things that we just have to sort of protect ourselves from as much as we possibly can, because every day is a reminder. We're never not thinking about Jackson. We're never not thinking about his absence. And Ivan's just had his birthday. And for me, this was the first birthday of Ivan since Jackson died. So it was his third birthday without Jackson, that I wasn't viewing it totally through the frame of Jackson isn't here. It's never not on my mind, but I want and try to do everything I can to give Ivan as good of a life as we possibly can, because losing Jackson, Mike almost dying in the span of 2 years, plus a pandemic, has been really hard. And to see Ivan kind of, come back with his confidence, and he still has anxiety, but it's not quite to the degree that it was.
Right. Because you guys have been so active with play therapy with him and really just kind of on it, not just expecting him to be a resilient kid.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah. So Mike mentioned a little bit about, things that have changed with y'all's relationship. I mean, you mentioned, Carrie, just now about kind of how you guys maybe grieve differently or deal with your grieving, but how would you say that your marriage is different now?
Me or Mike?
Carrie. I thought I started that with Carrie.
I'm sorry.
Carrie Schmidt on the mic.
For me, all the charity work that I do, like the Love Like Jackson and the St. Baldrick's, is kind of my job now, and it's my heart's work. And, so Mike has the business, And that's where, his focus is. And so then I have my stuff and I'm always like, hey, babe, guess what? Hey, babe, guess what? And it's just like, sometimes it's like so much. And sometimes he's not in the same place. He doesn't talk about it as freely and openly as I do. Like the fact that he decided to do this, means a lot to me because I know it's hard for him to go to that level. This talking and processing has been part of my process. And I'm a talker. I don't know if anybody knows that, but that's how I, process. And that's not necessarily how he does it. And I'd be lying if I said sometimes I want him to talk and, let's process it, but that's just not how he does it. And that's okay. I'm not mad about it, but it goes to show
it
again,
difficult.
It's a difference, and I don't think that the way that either one of us grieve is not wrong. It's just different, and we both as individuals have our own experience with grief. And so even though we are both Jackson's parents, we do not grieve the same way, Yeah. We're not grieving the same things either, I mean, he says he grieves for me as a mother. And honestly, when I hear you talk about that, it just touches my heart in a way that I don't think about a lot of times, about how it's affected you.
What? Yeah. Can you, sorry, just because I don't have children. I'm not, this is a little bit more difficult for me to always understand. Of course, love Jackson very much. And he's my, one of my only two nephews. Right. But I'm not going to know what that feeling is the same way that you guys do, of course. So Mike, when you say that, like, that you grieve for my sister Carrie as a mother, like what do you mean? What does that mean?
Well, because of the bond we made, obviously when, she was pregnant with Jackson, I mean, you instantly fall in love with that baby, and then the bond she made with him through the, just her being pregnant, and then the birth, and I mean, just a mother's love is just so, just connected and beautiful, and I just saw how much, I mean, she's just a wonderful mother, and it changed her whole life. It defined who she was. Like, she instantly was a mother, and just a very good mother. And so yeah, it just hurts me because it's my wife and I love her and I want her to be happy, and we had this amazing, beautiful son together, and just the greatest 7 years that I could easily say are best 7 years of my life at that time. And just to see it just ripped apart from us so quickly, it just hurts. It hurts me to see her sometimes and see her doing all these things, and which I love. I know she needs to do all this stuff, but I know that we would take Jackson back any second and give away any of this. Like,
it's a desperate attempt to try to make it hurt less.
Yeah. Because what else can you do? Right. I mean, I remember you guys specifically telling me, I think it was with your therapist, right, that said basically when this happens in a marriage, that it goes one of two ways. You kind of like you fold and that's it. And maybe you separate, someone doesn't want to live anymore, whatever, or you pick up and you have to try to keep moving forward. Right. I mean, was that your therapist? Am I remembering that right?
It was our pastor.
Was your pastor. Okay. Right. And I mean, have you guys, were you there in that moment together when that was said to you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Mike has had an experience and seen someone whose child died, and they definitely went down a different path and, were very depressed and just angry and bitter. And I think seeing that probably impacted Mike. And for me, when that conversation happened, it was like a light switch went off. It was like, that is what I'm going to do. And I had already been an advocate, so it wasn't a huge stretch. Never could I have imagined that any of the things that have happened would happen. But I also never in my wildest dreams thought I would be a bereaved mother either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Mike, for you, because I remember Carrie specifically telling me about this, because Carrie's a talker, as she mentioned. She mentioned this to me, and she made it very clear that for her, it was like right away, like, well, I got to stay here for Ivan and Mike. And so the first thing, we can't fold. I mean, was it like that for you? Did it take a while to figure that out? Or do you still feel, like you've chosen to keep on? I mean, what, tell me about that for you.
No, I whenever she would say that, it was one of those things I kind of didn't grasp yet. And, I was in too much of a fog and a dark place. The worst possible nightmare happened. And, I mean, even now I have to admit that sometimes I get a little, not necessarily jealous. I don't know what the word is for, but I'm like, it definitely feels like she's handling it a little better than I am, which I know is probably not true. But in my mind, I'm just like, I still feel like at points I'm falling apart. I'm like, how do I get a hold of this? But seeing her do this, I feel that it is doing good for others and trying to, keep your head out of your, or keep you out of your head and, not isolate. I can isolate really easy. So yeah, I know what I need to do, but sometimes it's hard to.
Doesn't mean it's easy.
Path.
Yeah,
right.
What I'm choosing is not necessarily an easy path. It's a conscious choice, but sometimes when he says, "Well, it seems like you have it all figured out," I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I feel like a friggin' lunatic trying to figure it out." It looks different for me than it does for him. And
you guys have
different doesn't
methods.
mean wrong. It's just different.
Totally different. And, Carrie, you're being a talker, being active on social media, being active with this stuff. It's also a lot easier for you in ways to get feedback from other people being like, good job, Carrie. You're so strong, Carrie. You're really killing it. And Mike's like, I'm off hiking. Like, is a squirrel going to be like, hey, nice job, buddy. Like you're not necessarily getting people to be like, you're killing it, Mike. Like, I'm glad that you let me in a bit because I feel very strongly that you're doing a very fine job,
Right.
But it's not necessarily as obvious, maybe outwardly, that you're choosing to not fold,
Right. Well, and one of the things too is that we noticed early on, and I don't know that it's purposeful, but fathers can kind of get a little overlooked. A lot of the attention really goes towards the mom and, people reach out. I don't know if that's just because in general women talk more, you know what I mean? And men are just kind of socialized to not talk as much. But, there'd be times where people would, give me a piece of jewelry or something. And then like when they thought of Mike too, it meant so much. And when we had a cousin whose baby died, I sent a piece of jewelry to both the mother and the father because I saw how much that meant to Mike. That someone thought of him too, because it's just as much of a loss for the father as it is for the mother.
Mike, do you feel, excluded sometimes when it comes to, people who approach you guys and they're more chatty with Carrie or more, talking to her because she's the woman? You ever feel excluded?
I really don't. I think it's more of a general, problem, I guess, with just how men are. I think if I were to feel excluded, it's more me probably doing it than other people possibly.
Okay.
And at first maybe I did, but definitely not now because I've been like going to more. I went a couple weeks ago to this event that Friends of Kids with Cancer had for us, the fathers, and it was just like a father's night out. So that was really important to me. And so, I think there's more awareness and, toward fathers now, but yeah, I kind of think it's more my fault, than anyone else's really, like, just because I am kind of closed and, I'm not as much of an open book as Carrie is. So,
Well, so you just mentioned this event you went to with other fathers, and out of curiosity, not that you guys like we said, there's no manual on how to handle this. There's no, there's no guidebook per se, but certainly you guys have more knowledge on it, on how to deal with your feelings and a marriage than you did 2 years ago. Right. Do you have things, Mike, that you would say to one of those other fathers that's struggling, or to another couple going through something like this?
I mean, just not to be so hard on yourself. Guilt is something that, as a dad, at least I do. I tell Ivan this all the time. I'll protect you. If he's scared or something, and I mean it. I would do anything to protect him. Unfortunately, there's nothing I could do to protect Jackson from this, and so even though I know logically I didn't do anything to, make him, help him die faster or die or anything, but
sure,
you can't. I don't know. I'm wired that way, where guilt just really can get to me, and I just think of little, even one of the last nights he was home, laying in bed when he was sick, and he wanted to play his piano, and I obviously I didn't think he had a life-threatening disease or anything, so I just was like probably lazy and didn't want to get the piano, and I was like, oh, that's all right, buddy, just play it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow he was in the hospital, so maybe he wanted to play the piano the last time, for the last time, and didn't know what he was, and so that kind of stuff, the little things you really just can beat yourself up about every day. So, I just hope other fathers don't do that, as much as I did.
Yeah, just kind of, well, like you said, kind of give yourself some space, kind of take it easy on yourself a bit. Yeah. I mean, does that change how you father Ivan now?
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm home a lot more. So yeah, I definitely, that's another guilt thing is I've always felt like I've been a great father, but I do work a lot, and that takes a lot of time out of us playing and hanging out. So I missed a lot of events, and I know that's normal. But with Ivan, I try to make more of his competitions and just playing with him at night.
I'm always so impressed with Mike's energy, because this dude is, first off, like a master craftsman. He'll never admit it, but he is. And he would work, 12-hour days, all, crazy amounts of hours, and still come home and still play with the boys. And I'm not talking like playing like, okay, let's play a board game. I mean, maybe you did that too. I know he did that, but I'm talking like rolling around on the floor, goofing off, telling stories, imaginary stories. His brain's still working at 9 at night after being up forever, and still having that energy to play and give. It's I've always thought that's really beautiful, that you shared that with Jackson, and still share that with Ivan.
Yes.
Because you could easily just go home and lay on the couch and be like, I'm done with it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Well, Carrie, what about you for if there's, other couples or marriages going through, certainly there are, going through this, I know it's hard to necessarily give advice, but what would you say from your experience?
Well, I agree with being easy on yourself, and, just really allowing the other person to grieve the way that they need to grieve, even though it's hard to watch, just not putting any expectations on the other person to grieve the way you either think they should, or, just giving them that space. That was another thing that our therapist shared with us that I feel like has made it so that we're at least not, I guess, angry with each other for how we're grieving. I'm on several support groups, and I see couples divorce. I see people that are mad at their spouse because they, packed up all their stuff without their permission, or various different things, trying to do as much of that stuff together, even though, again, it's hard. But, not making those decisions without the other spouse, because that's where those hurts can come in. And, living without your child is already painful enough. sometimes, if we're disagreeing, we're like, why are we making our life harder on each other? Living every single day without our child is enough punishment. Don't punish yourself. Don't punish each other. You know what I mean? So it's very hard. It's very, very hard. Especially, we have a young child who needs and wants a lot of our attention. So it's very hard to balance all that. And, we probably don't emphasize and prioritize our relationship as much as we should. It's just telling the truth,
Right. Well, at the same time, I was trying to remember. I feel like one time, Carrie, you told me a statistic about marriages staying together after losing a child. Was that right? Do you remember at all?
I think it's like 16%. 16% of marriages fail after a child's death, and it's not surprising. But for us, we know what that would do to Ivan. We know how devastating that would be. And so, and we also believe that would, if Jackson's watching us, which we do believe he is, that would devastate him. So we will continue to do the work that it takes through therapy and through the support group and all of that, because, Ivan didn't have a choice in any of this. And, sadly, he lost a piece of his parents that day too, and so being able to, just give it our all as much as we can, for each other, for Jackson, for Ivan, for Grace, because that's what we need. We need to do that. And it's hard. Yeah. It's hard,
Yeah.
So,
well, I think you said a key word there. You said, like, you guys continue to do the work, and by work meaning like doing therapy, doing the difficult work of talking to each other when it, communicating what's going on when it's uncomfortable or not going well. And I would hope that, hopefully this podcast reaches people who are, in a similar situation, trying to figure it out. We're not trying to say that Mike and Carrie are all stars, like everything's perfect and they figured it out. They've said they've been more than clear that is not the case.
No.
However, I do think it's important to note, that a lot of this, you guys being as good as you are, is come from doing that work, doing therapy, from continuing the process and doing things like this today, even if it is difficult or painful. That I think that for me, I have to imagine that it's helpful.
Well, and grief can be a very lonely emotion and feeling. And if anything else, I want to let other people know that you're not alone, and you're not alone in how you feel. And, I'm sure there's many other things and feelings and things we've experienced that we haven't shared, but, you don't have to do it alone. I don't believe we were created to do this alone. And I don't know that we're ready to wrap up, but if we are ready to wrap up, how I've been ending each podcast episode is, it's a quote from Ram Dass, and it is, we're all just walking each other home. And through this podcast, I want to, even if there is one other couple or one other mother or one other father that hears something that encourages them, even when you feel like you don't know how you're going to put one foot in front of the other again, you can do this, even though it's hard. And another thing, I talk a lot about Glenn, our therapist, because he obviously has said a lot of things that have been helpful to us. But he says if you take the word hard and replace it with important, it changes how you approach things. Yes, this is hard, but it's important. And to let people know that they're not alone, and that, we don't have all the answers, but we can help each other figure it out. That's my message. And, I just want to say thank you so much, Bobo, for talking with us and being a part of this. And I love you and miss you. And, there's times where I think about how this has been for you, watching from afar. And it's not lost on me to know that it has hurt the ripple effect of Jackson's death has affected very, very many people. So we see you and we love you. And
Thanks.
thank you so much for joining us again today.
Yeah. And thank you guys for having me, of course. And thank you for doing the important work of doing this and just living your lives the way that you're doing,
Thank you.
I'm proud of you guys. I'm so proud of you guys.
Oh, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Love you.
Yeah, I love you too.
Love you too.